Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Try-Brarians. I'm your innovation librarian, Miss Claire, and today I'm going to be showing you some very special makeup. So as you know, this month's theme is making it up. Last week we got to hang out with Miss Gabby and learn all about her foul face. And this week I'm going to be teaching you the basics of stage makeup, along with trying a couple other techniques that I've found that I've been dying to try out and see how well they go. So in case you don't know, one of my side hobbies is I'm a theater professional in the Milwaukee area. I mainly do costume design, but I've been doing acting for a while, and part of my undergraduate degree is in theater. And one of the classes you have to take is the basics of stage makeup. So I'm going to be giving you a crash course along with some of my friends from the theater world on how to do some basic makeup to do different looks. So today I'm going to be doing my makeup in a specific character. And see if you can all guess who that might be at the end. So let's go ahead and get started with the basics. So the very first thing that you are going to need is a nice clean face. A lot of times people will prime their face with cold cream on, depending on how heavy the makeup is. So there's a couple of different categories of makeup that either costumers will ask for or your director will ask for. And today I'm going to be doing what's called stylized corrective makeup. So basic corrective is just making your face look like an everyday look. Sometimes, depending on what theater you're in, you might define your eyes more, or your cheekbones more, or your eyebrows more, just so that they will show up on stage. But today I'm going to be doing that, but taking it a titch higher because I'm actually going to be a character. So let's go ahead and get started with the very first thing to add on. Some tips and tricks before you get started. Again, make sure you have a nice clean face, and I recommend wearing some loose fitting clothing so that way when you're changing into your costume later, you're not smearing all of that hard work that you just did. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing, you want to pull back all of your hair. You're going to pull back all of your hair so it's far away from your face. You are going to look a little strange for just a little bit. So part of what my character calls for is they have very thin, very high eyebrows. Now I could just color in my eyebrows to make them up a little bit darker, but this character has really, really distinct eyebrows. So in order to add their eyebrows, I'm going to get rid of mine. So I'm not going to shave my eyebrows, of course. So I've learned a new technique, and that I'm going to be trying out with you all, that involves getting rid of your eyebrows with Elmer's glue stick. So let's go ahead and give this a try. So always have a close mirror handy, and I'm just going to apply the first coat of glue stick directly to my eyebrows. So I've heard that it's nice using the purple Elmer's glue stick first, because then it shows you exactly where everything is dry or not dry. The next thing that you're going to need is a brow brush, and from what I've seen, I'm going to brush my eyebrows down so they lay flat. This is going to be difficult because I have very thick, very dark brows, so we're going to see how this looks. So I have some very funky looking eyebrows. Now in between each layer, I'm going to be using a setting powder. So I'm basically going to be building up glue and powder over my flattened eyebrows in order to raise them up, or raise that part up, so once I put my foundation on, you won't be able to see my brows. Lovely look, I know. So I'm going to give that a second to dry, and then I'm going to apply another layer of lipstick. Alright, now I'm going to move on to my third layer, which should be my final layer. Waiting for it to dry. Having a hand fan never hurts. Once you're sure that your eyebrows are nice and dry and set, you can move on to foundation. So I'm going to see how well I can do this. So choosing your foundation as an actor all depends on what character you're playing. If you're playing the young option, usually you do like the nice, perfect complexion. If you are playing, someone who's much older, you tend to use a darker or more red, depending on your complexion, a little bit darker shade. And that also helps eventually down the line when you are doing more different techniques as well. So for me, my character has a youthful appearance, so I'm going to be using a foundation that is much lighter. In my everyday normal makeup kit, I would use my cream-based Van Nye, but for this one, because I really want to get rid of my eyebrows, you can see that they're still very dark, I'm going to be using my liquid Dermablend Foundation that I usually use to cover up my tattoos when I'm acting. So for this, I'm just going to apply it like I would a normal foundation if you apply that every day. So just going to do various little dots of foundation. Want to make sure I get down my neck. So you're going to want to be sure that you get this on your neck. You want it on your ears. Basically anything that's going to be seen, because you don't want to have, super pale complexion and then your ears or your neck look off. So when I'm blending in my foundation, I want to make sure I'm using small circular motions, not like sweeping what my makeup professor called lawnmower streaks, because you really want to make sure that it's nice and blended out. So little circles and moving out towards your face. You also want to make sure you're getting up in your hairline as well, so you don't have that line. So you can see on this side, I haven't done my ear yet, so you can tell that it's much bigger than the rest of my very pale face. Now you can see that my eyebrows are still shining through because they are very dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be layering my foundation. So I'm going to take my setting powder, go over my eyebrows, and then wait a minute and then add another layer of foundation. Slowly but surely it's starting to work. And there you have it. Pretty much my eyebrows have disappeared. You can still kind of see them if you're up close because I didn't add enough of the glue stick, but I think that is as disappeared as I'm going to get my eyebrows at the moment. Okay, so next comes the shaping the face part. Right now, my face is very blank and pretty nondescript. I don't look anything like my character. So I'm going to be using various highlighting and shadowing techniques in order to shape my face, in order to look more like my character. So something very important to keep in mind, and something my other friends will probably tell you as well, is that shadows recede and highlights bring forward. So that means anything I put my highlight on, or my white, or in this case, it's it's paler than what I used for my foundation, is going to bring forward those features. And if I want things to recede or look different or be hidden, I'm going to be using a brown or a darker color, a much darker color than my complexion, in order to recede those. Every actor just chooses to do different, has different techniques on how they want to start their face. I usually start with my shadow, so that's what I'm going to do. So my character has a very distinct sharp face. I have a very round, soft face, so I'm going to be doing some extreme shadowing or some heavy contouring in order to make it look like I have that face. Now this close up, it's going to look very strange, but it's entirely different when you are on stage. Because remember, you're further back, you have the bright lights on you, so it's going to look a little more strange for just a minute. I'm going to be using my my contour and bruise wheel in order to start off, and I usually use my brush here in order to start it out. So first things first, I'm just going to draw on my lines of things that I need to recede. So first I'm going to work on my cheekbones, so making a weird fish face. So now I have very distinct lines that I'm going to blend later. Let's see. This character also has a very sharp nose, so I'm going to go along the side of my nose here to make it much sharper. This character has much fuller lips, so I'm going to be putting some lines underneath my lip as well. And just a little bit. So now comes the all-important part. Blending. Blend, blend, blend. So you can use a blender sponge if that's what you have. When I'm doing stage makeup, I like to use my round brush because I feel like it gets it spread just a little bit. So I'm just going to go in and start blending so it looks a little more natural and I don't have random lines in my face. So another thing with blending is, especially if you're doing such a drastic change, you don't want to blend out completely all of the line that you have. So you can see that I have some of the lines still there. I want to make sure that I keep some of that as well. Because as you can see, it helps define my face that much more. Makes my cheekbones look especially sharp, and it's going to come forward even more so once I'm farther away. So normally you would also go through like your temples to kind of define your head or your forehead as well, but because of this character is a little bit different, so I'm not going to be shadowing that part. So this character also has a very square jaw and chin, so I'm going to be highlighting just a little bit more in order to really bring out the square chin of this character. So again, using my brush. And now you can see I have a very distinct, sharp, square jaw now. All right, next comes the opposite of shadowing, and that is highlighting. So for this, I'm going to be using, normally I like to use white, especially if I'm going to be doing some really distinct things. Otherwise you can use a lighter foundation or even go as far as using an ultralight foundation as well. So this one I'm going to put directly onto my brush instead of drawing it in because I do want more sweeping things to bring forward. So that's going to be highlighting the apple of my cheek, just the top of my forehead to make it seem a little bit broader, tips of my chin, and then I will be using my brush to go down the center of my nose to make it that much more sharp. So you can see that brings it forward just that much more. My nose looks a little bit sharper. I'm going to add a little more to my forehead. Something also to keep in mind is usually wherever you have a shadow, you're going to want to add a complementary highlight to it. It looks a little strange if they're not paired together, just because how naturally light and shadow works. So same exact concept. Okay, so I have my foundation is structured out. I've shaped my face the way I want it to look. So now I'm going to set the whole thing. For that, I'm going to go ahead and use my setting translucent powder. Another good reason to be wearing a loose baggy shirt that you don't necessarily care about, because this setting powder goes everywhere. So as you can see with the translucent powder, is it sets everything down, it tones it down a whole lot, so I don't have those striking features, but I still maintain my face shape that I created. So now this character does wear makeup. Granted that it is stylized, so now I'm going to go ahead and recreate that, starting with eyebrows. So normally for eyebrows, you would draw in with brown, but this character has very distinct eyebrows, so I'm going to be using my black eyeliner pencil to attempt to draw in these eyebrows. So, see my reference sheet here. Here we go. Okay, so I have the general shape of these eyebrows, but they're not standing out as much as I want them to. So I'm going to switch to using a paintbrush and my black cream makeup. I'm going to be using my smaller brush and switching over to what's called my lip wheel. So I have 4 different colors here in order to use the black. So you can see that using the cream-based makeup stands out a lot more. It looks a little bit better. And there we go. Eyebrows aren't perfect, but they do mirror the character's eyebrows. And this character is not perfect by any means. So you can try to make them look more like real eyebrows using regular brow techniques. But for this one, I do want a very stylized look, so I'm going with the oddly shaped eyebrows. So now that my eyebrows are in place, I can continue on with the rest of my makeup for my character. So I'm going to start from the bottom up. So I'm going to start with my blush. So I just have regular old blush here. My character seems to have quite prominent blush. So I'm going to get quite a bit on there. Again, I don't want to get rid of that beautiful line that I've already created. So I'm just going to do the apple of my cheek and out. Like so. Now comes the fun part of the eyeshadow. So this one I will be using a regular eyeshadow palette. For this just because I have the colors that I want out of eyeshadow and I am doing the makeup. So we're going to see how that looks first. So the very first thing I need is white. Using white is again going to help define my eye. Now this one, the eyeshadow does go quite high up. So it's going to be very stylized once again. So now I'm going to go into my next color, which is purple. My purple almost done here. So now I'm going to finish it off by adding more white again above the purple. Just to bring it out a little bit. Now that I have my eyeshadow on, very bold, as you can see, I'm going to work on my eyeliner. Now, when it comes to having this many layers and I want something that stands out, I usually use ink eyeliner rather than pencil or an eyeliner crayon. Again, having very distinct broad strokes. There, I have my kind of little caricature wings going on. So you can tell I'm much better at applying to the right side of my face as opposed to the left side of my face. Now you want to make sure you get the corners and underneath your eye as well to make sure that your eyes are going to be able to stand out. And when the stage lights are right down on top of you, they're not going to wash out your eyes. So there's the eyeliner. And the final step, probably most important for both male and female presenting characters in theater, is mascara. It really makes all the difference. Don't forget to make many funny faces as you are putting on your mascara. Apparently that's just part of it. As you can see, I'm becoming a lot more put together, a little more distinct as well. Alright, and so the final step is to finish up with my lips. So I'm going to use my lip liner first to make sure that I have my outline correct,
to make sure that it looks okay. And it's also going to help keep the lipstick in place after I apply it. Now, the character that I'm portraying does have much fuller lips than I am, so I'm actually going to be tracing just a little bit outside of my lips. So now I have my lips lined. Looks a little funny because it's a little bit pale. But now I'm going to grab my lipstick and go ahead and apply it there. Again, being sure that you make as many funny faces as possible. All part of the process. And now I have my nice red lip. Alright, so I'm going to do a couple of additional tricks here, again, to help my lips look a little bit fuller by using a white. And I'm just going to go over just the parts of my lips that I want to make look fuller. So there you go. It gives it a little bit of a fuller effect. It gives it kind of a shine, a little bit more of a cartoony shine, which is I'm going for because my character is animated. So, any guesses yet? All right, so now comes the final features, which is adding in the more detailed, specialized type of makeup that I will need to finish, that my costume won't be able to complete. So for that, I am going to be using my wider brush. And I'm going to need my black. After this, let's see if you can guess who my character might be. My outfit's starting to look a little more familiar now. Let's go get into costume and see if that helps out a little bit more. And there you have it. There is my completed look with costume for Snow White's Evil Queen. So as you can see, there are a lot of different steps and a lot of different ways that you can attempt to try and make a very simple costume with old Halloween costumes laying around, and how you can spice it up with just a little bit of makeup and a whole lot of theater magic.
Our first guest is Brittany, Milwaukee actor, special effects artist, and scream queen in the making. She'll be showing you the steps to make a slightly spooky look.
So hello, my name is Brittany. Today I am going to be showing you a few different ways to do vampire effects or effects associated with vampires. We're going to do it in a couple different stages, so from a bite victim up through infection to a full vampire. Now first things first, if you have hair, long hair, you want to get that up and back, because what I'm going to be working with is some latex today, and you definitely don't want that in your hair. Always check things on maybe the back of your hand or your arm, some small area, to make sure that you're not allergic or irritated to it. If you do have a small irritants to it, I know that in some cases when I've done makeup for individuals, for theater productions, for example, a barrier spray or something of that nature might help. So that would be, again, something to test on the back of your hand or your arm before you put it on your face, or full scale, anything like that. If you don't have a barrier spray, I've found that applying a moisturizer to the area, letting that dry, and then putting in a setting spray can help as well. So with that in mind, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to get started with the latex. Very basic, bite kind of stuff. This is going to add a little bit of depth. It's not necessary if you really don't want to do it. It's just super easy to, put some red marks and some blood on your neck. That's pretty cool too. But what I'm going to be doing is just building it up ever so slightly. So I'm going to have some tissue paper and my latex. So I'm going to cut some small squares from my tissue, and I'm just going to use these to kind of build up the layers a little bit. So starting out with a brush, I'm just using a small simple paintbrush that I really don't care too much about if I ruin it. Just be careful because the latex is very hard to get out. I'm just going to take a very small amount on my brush, and where I want my first bite to be, I'm just going to put down a thin layer of latex, and then I'm going to take one of my little squares here and put that on top press that down. And then I'm going to put another very thin layer of latex over top of that, making sure I've got all the edges down. And then I'm gonna let that dry. So now I've started my second one. I don't know if you can see because I'm quite pale here. But you'll start to see this latex is gonna turn a little bit of a darker color once it starts drying. It's gonna be a little bit tacky. You wanna make sure that it's dry between layers as you go up. And we're not putting a whole lot of layers in here, but it's some good thing to do. It's still a little bit wet, and I'm not sure if I want to put another layer on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of my brush here and try and place a little divot right where I want that bite to be. And it's not going to be too much, but I'm doing this to try and create a little bit of depth to the wound here. Time telling if that's doing quite what I want it to. I'm going to try it here on the second. You want to be very careful when you're doing anything on your neck. So I think I've got some decent little divots in there that you can see. So let's see how it's drying. It's drying pretty well. Latex doesn't take really that long at all to dry when you do it in thin layers, and you do want to do it in thin layers to build it up. I'm just taking the rest of my Kleenex and wiping off my brush as best I can. And so now that we've got that done, the next thing I'm going to do is just put a little bit of powder on this because I want to move on to my next step. And just give it a good dab. This really takes the tackiness away from your latex and allows you to just kind of set it a little bit. Let's see, my divots are still there. Great. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is try and color this so it matches my skin. So you can really do this, with your regular foundation. Or something paler, which is what I'm going to do because I'm going to kind of move into the sickly vampire thing eventually. And also a little bit of a paler color does tend to make any blood or any irritation kind of jump off. You can see the color starting to even out. I'm sorry, my camera's not the best. I'll try and block out the back light a little bit. But see, now you can see less of the contrast here. You can kind of see the divots. I'm just gonna do a little bit more on here. And since I'm here, I'm gonna cover my whole neck. We'll get to the face in a minute. Now, yes, all the way down, just about to my sunburn. That's fine. Don't care about the sunburn in this case. But just so you guys know, I am using a cream makeup for this one. But it doesn't matter all that much. So again, we're going to set it with our setting powder. Now we can add our color. So you can really use any kind of dark color for what we're using here. You can use it as a shadow, a cream. In my case, I'm going to use an alcohol-based makeup. But no matter how you add it, it's going to work the same. I'm going to take a very small brush, pick up whatever color I'm using. It can even be, eyeliner if you want. And I'm going to get in there, just put a little darkness in there. And that's all. Now, since these are obviously going to be irritated areas because they've been bitten, we're going to add a little bit of red. So, again, you can take a cream, an alcohol base. I usually find that works best for the type of color I'm trying to put on here. I'm going to take a little some cream on there. Just lightly tap. This is going to start bloodying up the area a bit because it is a wound. And if you want, you can take some of that red and just kind of drag it down. It's a good background. It doesn't require as much blood to use if you're trying not to be messy. So, if you want to add a little bit of irritants in there, otherwise too, you can take a really pink blush. Kind of put it in the area because of course it's going to be mad and irritated. This might be a little hard for you guys to see, but you know, those little details kind of add up. And as you can see, those little holes we've made have added some depth. Now moving on to a little bit of blood. You can really use any kind of blood you'd like, any kind of Halloween. You know, I have Ben Nye and Mayron, different thicknesses, or you could just forego it all together and use the cream like I did. But you'll find that they all have different textures. They all work differently. So it all just kind of depends on what you're going for. You can see this one's kind of oozing a little bit, which is what I'm going for. Very nice. I'm not going to put a whole lot on there because I don't want it to drip all over. You can see here, we've got some basic vampire wounds. We've got some blood and irritation here. That's your basic vampire victim look. So, moving on. If you want to look distressed, you can add some scratch marks, just using a pink pencil, a couple scratches. If you have a sponge brush, putting that in some red or pink and just kind of scraping it makes you look like you've got some scrapes. We'll go from there. But what we're going to do is our next stage of infection, and that's when you start to get pale. Some of this starts looking a little worse, and so we're going to go do that next if that's what you're interested in. Alright, so I'm going to start off with the primer. If you're used to makeup, this is something you're used to. This is just a really good way to make sure that your makeup goes on nice and smooth. I've got my primer on. I'm going to go back in with that really pale color I had earlier, and we're going to put that all over the face. Alright, so I've got that on. As you can see, I'm pretty pale, but now we're going to set it like we did everything else. So if you're unfamiliar with a setting powder, what I'm just doing is putting the powder on my face, patting it around, kind of making sure I get into all the nooks and crannies. And again, since this is a cream makeup too, especially, I'm really making sure that I am setting this in place. It's not going to move. Let's say I'm not sleeping well, right? Probably not. This isn't feeling too great. Just going to put some shadows under the eyes. You can use a brown, black, be very careful with black though, gray shadow, also depending on your skin tone, what shows best. Me, I'm going to use a cream, and I'm just going to kind of lightly start here at the inner corners, just start out. And you can kind of avoid the inner corner going up too high, because then it starts looking like you've got a black eye. Now, if you're just doing this for a Halloween party or just for fun, this is enough. You know, but if you're kind of going for something big, you can always kind of lay it on thick. experimentation is not a bad thing. So here's the bags under my eyes. I'm not sleeping well. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of, some infectious veins over here, things of that nature, just to start showing this is not looking too good a couple days on. So I'm gonna take some greens, some thin reds, things of that nature. Again, you can use a cream, you can use a liner, whatever you've got on hand. I'm gonna use alcohol again. All right, and once we've got that pigment on, very light, a very light line, like you can barely see that. So you don't want too much, because a little bit goes a long way. So they're very faint. There's a couple. I have one down here, 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 here. I might do another little. It's barely there. I'm also gonna do a little bit of kind of like some purpley, kind of bruise-ish tone. You can see that one a little bit better. Shows up a little better than the green does. But this can kind of intermingle with the green and kind of do its own thing too. And again, we're just kind of showing that this is not doing so great. I'm not doing so great. So let's make this a little bit worse. Now I'm gonna start hollowing out my cheeks, hollowing out my temples, and a little bit here too. And that's gonna be very simple. You can use a little bit of that brown that you use for under the eyes. You can use some gray. Again, whatever works with your skin tone is kind of a shadowy color. Give me a little bit of an emaciated, a little bit of a hollow look. I'm going to do a similar thing down here. If you're familiar with contouring, it's the same thing. Just right in the hollow of that cheek, and if you're not sure, follow that line. Down here, I'm just kind of look for where these bones are, where those hollows already exist, and I'm just going to put some shadow in them. Okay, looking very worse for wear here. So this is when our turn is going to start happening. Now, when you do effects makeup like this, you really want to think about the character and what kind of story you want to tell. And with my vampire, I really want to tell, like, she fought this, she was struggling, she was tired, so I'm gonna make her tired, and I'm gonna make her, hungry looking until she finally succumbs. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is take some of this red pencil I have, and you can do red shadow. If you're not comfortable putting it on the waterline, that's fine. We can always put a little bit right under. Just kind of rub it out a little bit, and that just adds an extra element of this is not okay type of thing. Now, when we go full vampire, I am really just gonna make these lips super red. Why? Because now that we've turned, this is all about what a vampire wants. And in this story I'm creating, this is a hungry vampire. So, if you really want to cap the look off, you can put a little bit of blood on your face. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot, again. You can use that red from before. You can use that blood that you had. Just a little bit. And then, if you really want to get creative, you can get yourself some fake teeth. Just like that. So, we've got our latex down here. We've used some blood effects. We've used some shadowing to get some basic details in storytelling, as well as barrier sprays. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have fun creating whatever character comes to mind.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Try-Brarians. I hope you will all join us again next week, Wednesday at 3 p.m., where we will be continuing to make it up as we go. So we will see you all then. Bye-bye!